Hello, my friend. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Mark Fisher, and we're talking about delegating. We cover in-person assistance, virtual assistance. We give you our list of the most common things we think gym owners should be delegating to make more time in their day for high leverage activities. So if that sounds useful to you, keep on listening, my friend. Here we go. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business Unicorns podcast. Today, I'm here with Mark Fisher. Mark Fisher, how's your day going, my friend?
It's going pretty good.
Yeah, it's before we dive into today's conversation, I want to do a brief little shout out because we have a retreat coming up. We have a retreat coming up June 23rd and 24th. We're going to be in Tarrytown, New York, which is about an hour and a half north of New York City. And this retreat, we're selling a few extra spots for. Specifically, I think 5 extra spots we're selling for this. And the whole retreat is going to be focused on sales, improving your sales skills, improving your sales systems, your sales scripts. And I think many of you listening probably want to improve your sales game. And so we want to let you know that if you're listening to this when this podcast was released, the early bird period ends for grabbing one of those spots. The early bird period ends on Sunday, May 21st to get some cheap tickets or cheaper tickets. Wait, no, I lied. It's not May. Yeah, that's right. That's correct. May 21st, Sunday, is the due date. So down below in the show notes, go click the link, learn more about our retreat in Tarrytown where we can help you improve your sales systems. Fisher, you want to give a little preview of what we're going to do?
I think we'll cover sales things. The thing that's a little bit different, I think, about this one is, we'll do some content, but honestly, sales is number one. It's not that complicated, actually. Like you might even argue there's not that much to say about it. It's really about execution. So
it's about the practice.
Yeah. This particular content, more so maybe than anything else we'd offer, except for maybe if we ever do one focused on actual coaching sessions as a fitness coach, really requires you practicing and role playing and doing things. So we are going to be getting your hands dirty. I think that's not everyone's most favorite thing. Sometimes I want to see that and say that that's okay. And you must do it. If you want to be successful at this, you must do it. You can't think about this. You can't talk about this. You have to actually practice.
Yeah. Well, dear listeners, if you haven't yet, go back and listen to the podcast I did with M Strassfield. The first recording I did, her name was Emily Morris. But there's 2 podcasts I recently recorded with her. And you'll hear that our director of sales at MFF has repeated multiple times on both those podcasts. The most important thing about sales is to have a plan, have a script, have talking points, and to practice them. So this retreat we're doing on June 23rd, 24th is a chance for you to come join us and do exactly that, using a lot of the scripts and things that we use at MFF that you heard M talk through. So come join us, my friends. It's going to be a great one. All right, Fisher, let's dive into today's topic. And today we decided to talk about delegating. Can you just talk about why this topic matters so much for our listeners?
Yeah, because the main thing that most people really are looking for, I would argue even more so than money, is time.
Yeah.
And what is amazing about today's day and age is it has never been easier to hire hyper fractional help that you can pay for less than you make hourly to do all manner of drudgery that you're not interested in doing, that someone else would be very, very happy to do. It occurs to me, we were even speaking about, you got to, practice your sales. And a concern that I imagine some of you might be having is practice sales. When else am I going to fit that in? I've already got so much stuff going on. And one of the ways you can immediately make more time is by hiring help to do particularly administrative, particularly even all manner of personal things that I don't think a lot of you should be doing, that you do just out of habit, or you do because you have some mindset stuff that's not particularly helpful about it. You're not, I'm not too good to scrub my toilet. Okay, I guess you don't need to be too good to scrub your toilet, but there might be some other solutions out there for you for a very affordable rate. And then maybe you can spend that time with your family or your friends, or your loved ones.
Yeah. Well said, my friend. I think so many gym owners that we talk to who start out, or maybe still are, like armies of one, where there's really a 1-person gym, or maybe they're the owner who's mainly on the floor, but they have a few part-time people, or maybe they're starting to hire full-time staff. So often at that stage of the business, the bottleneck to that business's growth is the owner's time.
Yes.
That the owner has spent so much time on the floor that they're not working on the business, growing it. They're not generating leads. They're not creating marketing content. They're not improving their sales skills. So the business is going to just stay there and they get stuck at that place. We're just a single operator with a little bit of help and they get stuck there for years in some cases. And this is part of the solution, like delegating things off your plate as an owner, or even if you're bigger, if you have managers, delegating things off their plates so they can
Yes.
focus on driving the growth of the business. And to your point, Fisher, listeners, I'm not sure if you know this, but the industry for virtual assistants has boomed over the
It has
last several
completely
years.
changed.
it's
Completely
it's
changed.
completely new landscape. You can find people, for a couple dollars per hour to take things off your plate. All over the globe, you can work with folks. You can also find, if it matters to you, to hire people here in the US or wherever country you're from. You can find people in your native country who speak your native language at all price points and all
Yes.
skill sets. Everyone wants to work remote these days. And so the
Right.
proliferation of virtual assistants and support people has never been greater. The money is no longer an excuse for I can't get help in my business. Yeah. So having said all that, Fisher, can you just maybe lay the groundwork for some of the areas where you've been able to delegate things off your plate that have had the biggest impact?
Yeah, I think, in my world, the two things that I've really always strive to delegate are any number of personal errands that just don't make sense at how much I'm paid hourly to be doing. And that can look like a lot of things, anything from honestly cooking to cleaning to making travel reservations to calling
Laundry.
up the airline to make sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't do anything. I am the world's laziest person. And truly, I've always maintained that's the heart of my success as a time manager person. It does allow me a certain Zen Buddhist opportunity when I find myself on a very rare occasion having to be in line because it is the dark night of my soul and a really great opportunity to be present and appreciate how that I never need to stand in line for anything ever. And when I do, it's like, oh God. I think there's all manner of personal things that people maybe want to consider starting with because again, depending on your market, you can get a lot of that done pretty well, very reasonably. And that admittedly is not something you're going to outsource virtually because by definition, you need someone local to do that. But when you're talking about the business stuff, again, depends on exactly how your work shakes out. Mine, I imagine, is different than a lot of y'all. So for me at this point, it's more, travel booking and uh, here's an interesting distinction. I was going to say also scheduling, which my virtual assistant doesn't do because I have a platform that does it. And you don't want to delegate it if you can automate it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's handling all sorts of projects for me, like vetting, potential new vendors that we want to be looking into, considering making vendor changes. She is running a job search for me for the most part to look for another freelancer, another VA that might come in and do some pieces of what we need done between the companies that I am involved in. So now, for you as the gym owner, I suspect the first thing many of you are going to probably want some help with is all the administrative. And what's so great about this and makes such a no-brainer is it's likely the stuff that you hate.
Yeah.
And sometimes there might be some things you really, for some reason, really need to be local, but more often than not, you probably don't need. For instance, if somebody's helping out with memberships and they're just like filling out forms, and you need to find somebody you can trust, of course, particularly if they're doing anything that relates to financials in the business. But overall, you can often find somebody in different markets, particularly if you're in like a city, that are a lot
Mm-hmm.
more affordable. And like Keeler said, listen, you're going to get what you pay for, right? So I think there's a time and a place for finding amazingly affordable help, which often is going to happen in international markets. And there's also time and place where you're looking for someone to function a little bit more like an executive admin. So for instance, I went through a company. This is one you can look into. I've had a great experience with them so far called Freedom Makers. And these are individuals that are either retired or spouses of veterans. So if they are from the United States, some of them do live internationally, but they only do remote work and they tend to work at a very high level. And it's definitely not the cheapest hourly rate I could get by any means, but it does mean for me, I'm hiring someone that is a little bit more resourceful, somebody with batteries included, someone that's going to have a little bit better judgment for some of the things I need done at this point. And again, you do have to do the math a little bit to understand, okay, well, how much can I make per hour? And can I now fill that time by doing something that is potentially more lucrative than what I'm
Mm-hmm.
outsourcing? But as a rule, as a training gym owner, that's almost always going to be not that hard, right? Because particularly if you're a one human band, you're definitely going to be making more money. Even if you're just fulfilling sessions, usually that's going to be a more lucrative use of your time and probably more enjoyable than filling out, membership paperwork or doing stuff in Mind
Mm-hmm.
Body Online.
Yep.
And then certainly as the business progresses and more of your role is about marketing, sales, and leadership, those are things you're not going to want to outsource, but they're also things that you can really have a high impact. And you don't want to say things such as, I do not have time to role play my sales or create marketing materials or develop and meet with my team because I'm too busy doing laundry and filling out paperwork and doing bank runs and these other tasks that are just not going to be the best use of your time as the entrepreneur.
Yeah, well said. I think that's it. Is if you can make more money in that hour doing what you're best at than what you would pay someone to take
Yeah.
it off your plate, then take it off your plate, right? And Mark mentioned Freedom Makers, which is again based in the U.S. and might be a little higher price point, but they're experienced people who come with batteries included. But there's other places we've hired people off of Upwork before to take on certain tasks. We've used
Mm-hmm.
Fiverr for certain projects, so there is no shortage of websites to find qualified people. And I just add, that I think a great place to start, which you mentioned, Fisher, is just personally the things you're doing on your weekends or evenings that you just don't need to be doing. Can someone else do your laundry? Can you hire someone to clean once a month? Right? Like, are there things like that can take off your plate locally? And then in terms of virtual assistants, I'm just trying to think if had to make like a top 5 list of the things I see our gym owners in Unicorn Society
Mm-hmm.
delegating. It's a lot of like putting numbers in spreadsheets. So if you
Yes.
have a weekly,
Yes.
monthly dashboard, there's no reason you should be going to find all those numbers and putting them in spreadsheets.
Yes. And
Get
you
someone
hate
to put
it,
it in
by the way. I
spreadsheets.
know that you hate
And you
it.
hate everyone listening. No one
Don't do
likes
it.
doing
You
that.
hate it.
Right. The other thing I see them doing a lot of is financial stuff, even if it's just running reports, paying bills, reconciling receipts,
Mm-hmm.
client-related things like following up with people whose credit cards declined, or sending. If you don't have automated software, hiring someone to send quote automated emails, right?
Mm-hmm.
That like clients who are not showing up. If we want to send "we miss you" emails or "where have you been" emails, right? You can get a VA to do that if you don't have software that can do that for you. Again, to Fisher's point, if you can automate something with software, that's going to be much more financially viable than paying someone. But if you can't, pay someone. It's still going to be worth it for you to get some of these tasks off your plate. Other ones, like Mark said, are a lot of membership processing. So if you're processing people's membership upgrades or downgrades or freezes, those are things you can easily get off your plate. Anyway, I think those are probably like the top 3 to 5 things I see GM owners delegate. And there's an endless list. If you can create an SOP for it, it can be delegated.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you can create a standard operating
Yes.
procedure for it, it can be delegated.
Yes. And I would offer that for those of you that have a staff, just be prepared for the incredible amounts of pushback, because employees often assign a lot of their value to how much effort and like the actual work that they're doing, the activity, but you want to incentivize them based on results and achievement. So it is not uncommon, and this happened a lot at MFF, and I think we're really admirably through this at this point. When we first started talking about this, the original feedback from the team was that virtually nothing we do could be outsourceable. And now on the other side of it, everything we do is outsourceable. Because if you think about it, if you can create an SOP for someone that's coming physically into the business 40 hours a week to do it, then it's clearly outsourceable by definition, right?
Yeah.
So, and a couple other frameworks I'll give you to think through this is frequency, I think, is one of the determining factors. If you're doing something on the regular, that is a prime category to have someone else take care of. Admittedly, if you're doing a one-off project or assignment, that gets a little tougher. Again, you're going to need so many batteries included to be given broad guidelines and have them figure out how to do the thing. But certainly if you're doing something frequently, it's probably very SOPable and hence very delegatable. Related, anything that you think if you had a magic wand, you could automate, but right now you just can't because you don't know how to code or there's just some complexities to it. It doesn't actually bear the creation of a technical solution to it. But if you had a magic wand and you in theory could automate it, that is another thing that is a really good contender to be outsourced to some sort of assistant, virtual or otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I think those are great triggers for people to think through. It's like, what are the things that you're doing that you just wish you didn't have to do ever again? And what are things you're doing repeatedly that it's a consistent process that you have to just kind of walk through. Because if a consistent, repeatable process that you're already doing, it's already halfway to being an SOP. You have to just record yourself doing it once and then hand it off to someone and never do it again. Yeah. Yeah. Well said. All right, you know what? Let's leave this one here. Let's make this a short one. Our message today is go delegate some shit, and whether that's to people on your team or to virtual assistants or in-person support and help in your real physical space. Especially for gym owners out there, you are often the bottleneck to your own growth. So if your
Yes.
time and energy is the bottleneck to your business
Yep.
growing, this is the episode for you. And if you have
Yes.
questions about that, email us, michael@businessofunicorns.com, mark@businessofunicorns.com. And if this episode is valuable to you, please leave us a 5-star review everywhere you listen. And final reminder, if you want to improve your sales game, come join us. Register by the end of this week. Sunday, May 21st, if you're listening to this podcast when it came out, and save some money. Join us on June 23rd and 24th in Tarrytown, New York for a sales retreat. Hope to see you there. Thanks for a great conversation, Fisher.
Bye.